So I'm here to talk about a string view class. Well, not standard string view, but there's gonna be a lot of contrasting with it. String view's a pretty good concept, but it's missing a bunch of string processing methods to make what we do often. It's always about the strings. And that's where we always make the mistakes there in conditionals. Make it more explicit and more clear to the intent and with less errors, hopefully. So I gotta click there. So some things I have some issues with string view. There's a lot of areas with it where it's got too much UB, and this leads to and remove prefix, suffix. They're missing things like a default of 1, which is it helps a little bit, but it makes like, why do I have to keep typing 1? But also the default is UB if you go greater in size, and I think that's the wrong default, and it should have been opted into for being exact there. It's a bit of a hot take, but it also lets you do things like pass find directly to it, where it returns end pos, and it'll just clip it to the whole string view. So you don't have to do that explicit branch. And it's missing find if. So you have to go in, and now you're mixing iterators and indices within the string view if you have find if in your code. And here's the big hot take for me: the pointer only constructor should be fine with no pointer, and it should construct to an empty range. It's not UB for the string view itself. It's standard character traits that length that makes it UB. And actually, that's a breaking change in 23, I think, where they're actually making it no longer form an empty range if you have a custom character traits. Maybe they filtered on the character traits too, but I don't think almost every impl out there is already checking for the size, so it's not even saving on performance. It's just being user hostile by not making it an empty range. And there's a lot of C APIs that return null, and having to do the extra branching that, because it tells you within the string view that it was null and 0 for the pointer size, so it's not even losing information by just taking it and constructing it. So some of the things with my string view is it's going to be by default, it's not going to go out of bounds in a bunch of places, and but you can opt into exact versions. Again, no pointer is defined as the empty range, and it lets you do a bunch of common string things with less code, because it'll combine find substring and remove prefix or suffix into a routine called pop front until and pop front while. We'll get to that in a sec here. So some of the things considered here: using member functions. The free methods don't compose as well. A lot of the methods added are returning a string view or a reference to self, so you can chain them, and that comes into things like trim. Sometimes some have suggested, well, use ranges, because you can do things like range split now and that, but that doesn't carry the state in the string view itself. The string view class itself makes a really good state object. It keeps for when you're doing like a parser of sorts, because it keeps your current placement. So you have to go back and subtract, remove prefix, remove suffix if you're using ranges. The null thing, yeah. So implementations like lib standard C++, lib C++, they're checking in quite a few, depending on the debug level or depending on the impl. for null anyways. So we're not really losing performance by taking a null constructor. And then there's going to be a lot less mixing of iterators and indices and off by one errors that and this is going to try to remove the times where you need to use indices or indexes from the code. So some of the things that have been added, find if, like it doesn't exist in string or string view on the standard, but it's super useful to take a unary predicate and return the position. I keep going back to that null pointer, but 23 is kind of bugging me here about that. Remove prefix is gonna do 1, and then remove prefix also has you can look for substrings or characters, or you use a predicate, and it'll remove until those are true. So with the new find if and the new predicate taking remove prefix, we can now do things like a method pop front until, and this is going to return the removed part of the string view to you. So now you can do that as an assignment, say in the constructor of another type, and we'll get into that in a sec. And it has by default, it'll remove the what you were looking for. So if it was a substring, the length, it's just going to discard it. And but you can opt into not discarding it. Both are useful. Usually, like if you're doing a split, you're discarding the delimiter anyways. Return skipped over per, try pop front until. So, and then there's also pop front while, which will pop everything up until your predicate or your character isn't a match. Somebody got music going there. It said Alex Jones too.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about. I just removed them.
I think they're trying to crash us, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if you have like a password for this thing. Maybe it'd be better, but anyways.
Yeah, I do have a I mean, if you have the link, if you signed up on, you have to have the link from from meetup.com, which had the password embedded in it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I host another meetup, on Saturdays, and I've had to deal with these problems every now and then. It's really annoying.
Yeah, we've never had to deal with that.
Hopefully that was it.
Fortunately, up to this point. All right, sorry about that, Darrell.
No worries.
Sorry, there you go.
Okay, so let's look at some examples here. Like such as splitting a string over a delimiter or a predicate. With the standard string view, and I got the code linked. I'll link to that in a sec. You got a bunch of places where you have to deal with checks. Otherwise, you're hitting UB because you're going to use find first of, or and now you got to check for if it was not found or not. If it is found, so you got a bunch of places where you could be off here, and then like remove prefix. So this is a simple string split over a space, and you're repeating yourself quite a bit. And then with the prop front until, which combines essentially so find first of, substring, and remove prefix, it becomes a one-liner. And you could even do things like you could put a trim inside so while not sv.trim.empty, and it'll trim or trim left, it'll remove the the consecutive delimiters. Then okay, let's look at some trimming here. Also, I thought this would be a funny picture for this. So this is going to be similar. Did I show, I used the wrong images here, didn't I? Okay, we'll go to the code. Oops. I lost. Oh no, okay, no, sorry. All right, so this is, the code's a lot harder to read in the standard string view. Okay, so, and again, yeah, it's far less explicit. Like here, you know, you can go trim prefix, trim suffix, and then there's also copy versions which don't mutate the state of the actual string view. So you're doing quite there's a lot more work going on just to do something that can be simple. And I'm going to show an example of how this all composes in a bit here. So this is a simple URI parser, but it's not so simple with the standard string view. So you got, similar to the previous ones, where you're gonna do a mix of find or and I have a find if I had to write for this that brought in the index, because otherwise it's even worse. And then that goes into code like, so it's almost like it's almost like a BNF format for parsing, where, you know, so everything up until you hit the colon / for that, for the authority part, the host is everything up to the /, but we're going to keep the / there if it is there. And what this will do is, if it never finds the, if it doesn't find the delimiter, it's going to return, it's going to empty the original string view and return the whole string to authority, and then the rest of them will reach into an empty string view. So if this was the whole thing, it would actually, this would just be empty.
Does
And
the pop front until, I'm sorry, does it keep the delimiter? where does the delimiter end up in the normal situation if it is found?
in the normal, if you look at the first one here, the normal one here, it's going to discard the delimiter.
It'll just be gone. You get
It's
the thing
gone,
before
yeah.
it, and then the remainder is what's left in URI string.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
And that's super common. That's probably more common than not discarding it. So, and the next portion here, I'm not going to discard it, because we're going to want it for, if there is a /, we want it for the path. So it's gonna keep it at the beginning of the URI string here. So, and so we're hitting, so yeah, so the authority import is going to go into authority here. And if there's a /, it's going to remain. Otherwise, it's everything before that, and everything after that is in our state object, which is a string view. If we're empty, I'm just going to return the result here. I could bail early. And now we're going to look for, and this is why we kept this any of is a predicate I have. It returns true if any of those are equal. When it for any, so if the character passed to it is a question mark or a hash, it'll return true, and then pop front will return because it found a true predicate. And there is a mix here. You can see, like, you know, I got a predicate of a string, predicate of a character, matching a string, matching a character, matching a predicate, waiting till it's true. So, and it doesn't really matter. It's whatever's best for the job at the time. And then, yeah, so here we're just doing, it's about the same, but it's a lot more clear about each section of the code, and compared to the standard version, where now you have indices. So there's room for error in so many places here. With the indices, you got mixing of indices and iterators that, if I hadn't written, it's missing the find if code here, but and yeah, so that's a quick overview. Let's go to the code here. So this is parse URL. So It's quite a bit longer. Are there any questions? Or anything that you'd like to see? Depending on the, like, the URL, I have an example somewhere where you could do it all in one line because the state's there, but if you have a simplified URL, it can be, let me bring it up here.
I have a question, Darrell.
Yeah.
Did you obviously started making this with a specific use case in mind, like you were working on a URL parser or something like that? Is that the case?
That's actually what it was a few years ago, and it just, string routines like this come up all the time where you get past a string and you're breaking it into parts.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably one of the most common things. Or you want to find the place in a string, it comes up and just chunking it, like a string split. Happens all the time.
Yeah, it's interesting you made a decision to return the removed part from remove prefix. That
It's not in remove prefix still returns nothing.
Sorry, there's a function where you return the removed part.
Yeah, pop front until.
Front until. Okay.
Yeah, and there's also pop front while.
So did you make this decision because that's the style of your parser? I ask because I've often wished for like a without prefix, which would not alter a string view, but make a new string view from the old one without its prefix. I come at parsing a bit from the other side where it's not mutating things, but it's just making const string views from const string views.
I guess split, it would return a pair of the front and the split, the dropped part and the not dropped part,
of
or
an
something.
Alternative.
Yeah, I hear the
parsing,
string.
I guess
with the style I'm usually doing, the string view itself is the state object, and as you progress through the text stream, that's going to have your position in it. You can copy it. You can still, it's cheap to make a copy of it at any point if you wanted to back out or to store it. But returning copies, I haven't had a need. Like, it would be trivial to do it as a like the difference between post and pre-increment here. I think that's what you're getting at, right? Where it doesn't mutate, but it'll remove. It'll return a copy.
I was thinking more that, as Jason was saying, the split example. So if you take a look at pop front until, I'm almost kind of going, well, I kind of want it to have almost returned 3 items, right?
Right.
Stuff that's
the beginning,
before, the stuff that is consumed, and the stuff after.
Unfortunately, that's not anything that can fit in a single register return. So now well, I mean, if that's your main concern is high performance return values from your split function.
Yeah, but you know what the delimiter is static or already, because you passed it to the find, right? Or to the function.
You know what it is, but you don't know where it is. You might care about the actual index, which the string view has. It gives you a way of recovering that information.
It has to be right after it, subsequently to it. It's a string view, so
that's true.
You know it's following it no matter every time. And if it's a predicate, it'll be one long, and if it's a string, or a predicate or a character, it'll be one long. And if it's a string, well, you know the length of the string token that you've looked for.
I have a completely different topic that I find interesting, but I mean, related totally to what you're showing here, because I recently had this disagreement on Twitter where there's certain organizations that don't allow you to ever create a local variable that is a string view, because of the potential risk that string view is now a reference to a temporary that's getting ready to be popped from the stack, and now you just have a memory error. But my response back to this organization was that every interesting use case of string view that I've ever seen requires you to have local copies of string views and split things. And like, that's the whole point. You've got a string that lives somewhere. You don't care. Now you're just parsing it using string views.
Yeah.
And you definitely are doing that here, right?
Yeah, like even like JSON link, my JSON library, it's not
Right.
this class, but the whole state object is it's a class that holds state to a range of characters somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
Which is like a string view, but it's a specialized one for that library.
My response back, and I don't need to occupy this time here, monopolize it or anything, is basically, if you're concerned about that at all, then just use address sanitizer and you'll catch all those cases.
Or const expr.
Or const expr, yeah. Same thing.
Yeah.
All right.
And there's the symmetry in these routines. So the pop front, there's a pop back, and also the suffix versions. There's also did I do trim? Yeah, I have trim. There's only one trim, but there's also so trim, suffix, trim, prefix, and the copy versions, which will return the new one which has been trimmed and leave it alone, which falls into, I think, that was Ben earlier asking about the non-mutating ones, right? Yeah. I just haven't had a need with those methods, but it wouldn't, it's a, make a copy, return the chunk from that copy instead of the state, like instead of the current objects, like a const version of it. Yeah.
I got a question. Why is it important to you to be able to construct a string view from a null pointer? I'm not sure.
It's come up with CAPI, so now we're doing the check twice. The string views are already doing it. That's how they're throwing, or they're aborting if you do it right now. I didn't go any further than with the error, but they're checking it.
Right, and in 23 the constructor is deleted,
which is
from null to T.
Yeah, which is breaking the symmetry, because on a custom character traits, it doesn't have to be UB. It's up to that character traits class itself, and it's the UBs on standard character traits length right now. And it also, we have the symmetry with the pointer and the size constructor, where you actually explicitly pass the size. They're checking there too if it's null, and your size is not 0. And if you look into like, if I go to I had it here. Let's go to the other one. Is this one that got standard string view? But yeah, so the work has been done for the most part in the implementations already. But if I have a CAPI returning a null on error or something, and I'm making a string view to return it instead of instead of just returning a raw pointer, it should be able to handle that. It's not like we're losing performance because the work's being done. And now my code gets more complicated with because I have to put the check. I have to take the pointer, check if it's null, and then construct the string view differently because of that. So but it's not really gay. What are we gaining by not having that, by disallowing it?
Well, so I guess the question to ask is, what functions are valid to call on a string view that contains a null pointer?
Empty, same as a default string view, right? The only difference is, or a string view that's been emptied already, except the difference is, they're both empty ranges of characters.
I have to agree. I feel like the fact that you can default construct a string view, but you can't create one from a null pointer feels asymmetrical to me. Not that I have a use case for constructing from a null pointer, but it seems, I agree, it seems asymmetrical.
Is there really, maybe the observation is somewhat inverted in that, like, what you really need is like a non-null putter T for char star.
Yeah. Because to me, the fact that what you're doing is you're hiding the fact there's a difference between a null pointer and an empty string.
Is it an error? But null doesn't always mean error. It's quite often used as a sentinel for like an optional. So,
Right,
and there's
but
a lot
again-
of APIs that return null when they just can't, it's not an error. So, but you don't want to return a character string, a pointer.
Right, but an optional is not an optional with is not the same as an empty string.
I know it, but a null pointer is an empty range of it is an empty range. It's defined as a range of size 0.
Well, I think personally, if the question is the difference between a null pointer and an empty string important to you?
Yeah.
And it seems like for Darrell's use cases, it's not important at all. So he would prefer to have it work.
Does anyone know the paper that proposed the C++23 change to delete the null pointer? Did you know, Darrell?
I
Because
don't know, and I
I'm
don't
just
have
looking
chat
at-
open to get the end paper bot.
I have to think that null pointer is not a valid range because
But it
the str-
is.
bec- but it says in the standard the preconditions on this constructor are that you have the
Does it? I thought that
thing
was
is
it because
it
they
is
called
a valid.
length.
The
I-
preconditions on basic string views constructor are that the char star and the plus the traits length of the char star is a valid range. If that were already true, we wouldn't need to delete the.
Here we go.
So I'm wondering. This is why I'm asking about the
This
paper.
one,
because I'm
right?
wondering if there's some
I-
deeper reason here why C++23 deleted the null pointer constructor. I'm thinking.
I have a link to it here. There, I found the paper. Does anyone know Josh? If I allow Josh in, will they be a gate crasher? I guess I have to try.
So string view doesn't actually have, at least in 20, doesn't have an issue with null pointers. If traits length is okay with it. Let's.
Yeah,
Some-
specifically if the trait's length is okay with it. That's
Yeah.
what in the motivation paper here.
Do you have the paper open?
I pasted it into the chat window,
Oh,
which I know is hard to see when you're the speaker. It is P2166.
I don't see the message in chat.
me neither.
What? Oh, I DM'd it to people in the waiting room.
Well, they'll get a nice read.
There we go. It's in the
Said
chat now.
2166.
Yeah, 2166. Did we just derail your entire point of your talk here, Darrell?
No, I
Okay.
was done, and this was the hot take. I did mention it 3 or 4 times.
Well, in whatever form that it takes, I feel like your pop front, that's what it was called, right?
Yeah, pop. It was too long to type prefix and suffix, so I went to front and back.
I mean, that's almost worth the price of admission right there. Like if you've done any kind of considerable amount of parsing work with string view, that's pretty handy. Like I totally agree with your your assessment there.
That's it. There's a couple of things there. Yeah, the null pointer. It's a it's a small hill I want to stand on, but I'm not gonna die on that hill.
But it is your point, your argument is very interesting. The fact that the standard explicitly allows it today, if you passed a custom card traits that allowed it.
Yeah. Like, even like if you go to string now, lib standard C++ is throwing if you pass it to their card traits. And the old argument's always been, well, it's too expensive to check for that null pointer. Well, it's no, everybody's doing it already.
Right.
So let's just make it defined as an empty range. And, if I'm debugging and I see a weird null there and 0, well, at least I can, it's still debuggable. Well, so is the throw if you get a throw, but if you actually get, if it is actually past, card trade's length or, as Sterland, that's gonna do some weird, it's gonna go until it finds, well, not with null, it's gonna do something, I don't know what it's gonna dereference a null pointer, so it's just
Yeah.
weird.